Be'ez Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Zevachim Daf Samach Gimel, and we're going to start from the Mishnah on Daf Samach Gimel Lamed Aleph. So basically, um, let us let us let us make this small. Okay, basically, um, I have these beautiful pictures on the screen here regarding what a mincha is. So just to get it clear. Man wants to donate something, a gift to Hashem. So he donates a mincha. A mincha is basically three ingredients: oil, flour, I guess, and levina, which is frankincense. So what you do is you put the oil into a kli into a vessel belonging to the Beis Hamikdash. You see he's putting the oil. Then you add the flour. Then you add you mix it up. Okay, you mixes it up, mixes the flour and the oil, and then you add the remaining oil. Okay, so far you have a mixture of a dough with oil, like a flour with oil. Then you put levona, yeah, pieces of the levona on one side. Then what he does, he gives it to the kohen. Okay, he brings the mincha to the kohen, and the kohen, this is very important, which we're going to cover, comes to the southwest corner, west corner of the mizbeach. West means that it's facing the Beis Hamikdash. I'll just show it to you on the screen here. The southwest corner would be south. This is south, where my angle is. So here, right over here, he brings it and he touches it to the mizbeach. Okay. Then this part you're familiar with. Afterwards, he does a kamitza, which means he takes his hand, opens it, and then does this, three fingers like this, smooths it out on the other side, and then he lifts his hand out this way. This is the proper way of kamitza, and then puts that into a kli shares. Then he puts that to another kohen, gives it to another kohen in a kli shares. Then he puts frankincense on it. So now this part, this little scoop with a little frankincense is going to be brought up to the mizbeach. They salt it and they put it on the maracha. And then they makriv it. You see, he's throwing it onto the mizbeach. And then what do you do with the rest of the flour? They bake it and they eat it around the mizbeach. They eat it. They eat it in the base in the Mishkan or in the Beis Hamikdash. So that's simple. That's what a zvachim is. So let's do the Mishnah, and now everything will be very simple. Menachos haya nikmatzos b'chol makom. Here, although the part of the service was that you bring the mincha towards the corner of the mizbeach, right, the southwest corner of the mizbeach, but the kamitza, which is done after the hagasha, it can be done anywhere in the Beis Hamikdash. It doesn't have to be done on the north or anywhere. It could be done anywhere in the Beis Hamikdash. So in this picture, if you want to do the kamitza, you could do it anywhere here, anywhere. Technically, anywhere you can do it. The kamitza can be done anywhere. Then and the kahanim eat the remainder within the curtains. And in our picture, in the second Beis Hamikdash, they eat it over here. They bake it and somehow they find a place to sit down and eat. And the only ones that could eat it is the zichrei kahuna. Only if you're a male kohen, you could eat that mincha. And b'chol ma'achol, you could eat it any which way you want. You could eat it roasted, baked, I don't know, salted. But the main thing is that it's not like a korban pesach, which has to be eaten roasted. You could eat it in any which way you want to prepare it. And liyoim, the day that the mincha is brought, v'layla, and you have the night afterwards, at chatzayis till midnight. And then afterwards, it becomes noiser. Now, really, it doesn't become noiser till the next day, right? But the Chachamim said, stop your eating already in the middle of the night. So that was just to encourage people to get it done. So Omer Ablaza comes the Gemara and says like this. Omer Ablaza says, mincha shenikmitza beheichal kashera. The mincha that was you did the kamitza in the sanctuary itself is kosher. Shekei metzinu besilik bezitin, because we find that by the shulchan. In other words, if you went to the sanctuary itself, right over here, and somewhere you went into the building and you did the kmitza over there, so that's also all good. Why? Because, as the Raisa says, part of what was inside the sanctuary was the shulchan, right? The table. And this, an Erev Shabbos, they would take, you see this, there's 2 cups of incense that was on the vina was on the shulchan. That was the kmitza, so to speak, and they would bring it in makravit. And then only then people, the kohanim would eat the extra breads, these 12 breads, and they bring new breads every Shabbos. So this kmitza was already done in the heichal. So that's why it's kosher. So mincha shenikbetza beheichal, if you did the kmitza in the sanctuary, it's kosher. Masav Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question. There's a brisa that says, "V'kamatz misham." When a person brings a mincha, the Torah says the kohen should do the chemitza from where the Jew is standing, from where the Yisrael is standing. Mimakom sheragle hazar indus. He could only do the chemitza where the Jew is standing, and so presumably when the Jew is standing, he's standing, right when he comes into the Shar Niknor, which is right over here. He could only do the Kmitza over here. So how could you say you could do the Kmitza in the sanctuary itself? This Brisa seems to say you could only do the Kmitza where the Jew is, where the Yisrael could only be, because the rest of the Beis Hamikdash is only allowed for Kahanim. Ben Beseira says, "Benayim shem kometz b'small sheyachsim yachs b'min tamad lam mishomi makom shekometz kvar." Ben Beseira has another drasha from this v'kometz misham to teach you that if you did the kmitza with your left hand, you can redo it again with your right hand. But the Tanakama clearly says that the kmitza has to be done on a place where the zar stands, which is not throughout the sanctuary, and certainly not in the heichal itself. You can do the kmitza. So this is a question against Rab Laza. So Ikedi Amrei hu moisav lo hu mafarakla. Some say that Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question, and Rabbi Yirmiyah answered his own question, which is very nice. Ikedi Amrei, but others say Omale Rab Yaakov the Rabbi Yirmiyah bat Tachlifa. Rabbi Yaakov answered Rabbi Yirmiyah bat Tachlifa, and he said like this: Asberach, I'll tell you why you need this pasuk. Really, it's kosher to bring to do the kmitza anywhere, any part of the Beis Hamikdash. The pasuk is teaching me, and this is what the pasuk is teaching me, that the entire azara is permitted to do the kmitza. Because salkadaita chamina, I would have thought hoyel va'oila kachi kachim and mincha kachi kachim, since an oila is holy holy and mincha is holy holy. So I would think ma oila tu'unit safin af mincha tu'unit safin, because if you look at the Beis Hamikdash, where did they shecht carbon oilers? Only in the north, right over here. So I would think that mincha should be the same as a carbon oiler. Kamash malam, that you could even, that's what the pasuk is telling me, that you could do it even over here where the Yisrael is standing. Because I would think that it should be like an oiler, that just like an oiler is in the north, a mincha should be in the north. Says the Gemara, how could I have such a havamina to compare a mincha to an oiler? The reason why a mincha is in the north, mala oiler shekein kolol. An oiler is totally burnt on the mizbeach. A mincha, part of it is eaten by the kahanim. So it's like a lighter carbon, so to speak. So memela, so therefore, I would not think to compare it totally like an oiler. So the Gemara says mechatas. Then I would have compared the mincha to a chatas. Just like a chatas has parts that are eaten to the kahanim, and yet you shecht it in the north by those rings. So I would think that a mincha also should be eaten in the north, should be do the kmitza in the north. So that's why this pasuk says v'kamatz misham. So the Gemara says, why would I compare a mincha to chatas? Malachatas shekain mechaperes al chayave krisis. A chatas brings forgiveness for those that are chayiv kares. So therefore, we're strict about it. But a mincha, maybe I don't need a pasuk. I would think that you can do it anywhere. So the Gemara says miyasham. I would think that you compare a mincha to an asham. It's not bringing an atonement. Sometimes an asham is not bringing an atonement. Asham nazir, asham tzaira. So if so, I would think that a mincha would also, and an asham has to be brought in the north. So I would think a mincha has to be brought in the north. That's why the pasuk is teaching you that it doesn't have to be brought in the north. But the Gemara says, how could I ever have such a comparison? Ma'ala asham shekain mine damim. A asham is a blood type of carbon, and therefore it has to be done in the north. The mincha is just a flour. So mikulu. So the Gemara says, then I would say a mamatzinu that oile, chatas, and ashim all have to be brought in the north. Maybe a mincha also has to be brought in the north. Mala kulish came in a daman. I would never compare a mincha to a carbon. A carbon has to be brought in the north because there's blood that's brought on the mizbeach, and it's a different type of situation. But I would never think that a mincha would have to be like a carbon, and mincha would be have to, and it could only do the kamitza in the north. So why do I need this pasuk? Kamatz misham, ela itzrach. I need that pasuk. Sal kadaita chamina, as I explained. Hoyel ksive v'gish el mizbeach. As we learned that a mincha prior to the kamitza, what did the kohen do? He brought it close to the southwest corner, like made a prayer over here. So I would think that right there you should do the kamitza. So because I would think that just like the bringing of the mincha was in the southwest, I would think that kamitza also should be done in the southwest. Kamash Malon, that's what the pasuk is teaching me, that the kamitza actually could be done anywhere, even where the Yisrael is standing, and certainly we're in other places of the Azara. So it's not a question anymore against Rabbi Yochanan, against Rabbi Lazar. And actually, he even says that it could be done in the Heichal, in the sanctuary itself. You could do the kamitza. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Shlomim sheshachtam beheichal kasherim. A shlomim that you slaughtered in the heichal is kosher. So again, if you went into the sanctuary itself and somehow slaughtered a carbon shlomim, it's kosher. Shnema ushachta oisei pesach oil moed. You shech the animal right by the opening of the oil moed. So the Torah says you could shech the animal at the opening of the oil moed. So maybe the Torah is telling you that certainly you could shecht an animal in the oil moed, in the sanctuary. We're not going to say that the secondary should be more stricter than the main place. If you can do it outside the oil moed, certainly you could do it inside the oil moed. So if I can do the shechita over here, I can certainly do it over here, inside the sanctuary. Says the Gemara, Meisvei, Rabbi Yochanan ben Meseira Oimar, Rabbi Yochanan ben Meseira says, maybe it's Yehuda ben Meseira, I don't know anyway, yeah, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira Oimar, Menayin Shem Hekifu Goyim Kol Azara. What happens if there's missiles falling all over the base of Migdash? So and Kahanim Nichnosim L'Sham Va'ich L'Sham Kachi Kachim. The Kahanim could walk into the sanctuary and eat Kachi Kachim. Let's say they're supposed to eat a chatas. If there's missiles flying all around, then they can go here into the sanctuary for protection and eat there. Talmud Loima, B'Kodesh Kashashim Kadechlan. There's a pasuk that says they can eat in the holies of holies. Now, we have an extra pasuk to teach you that. Ba'amai, why don't you say the same thing? Neima, B'chatzar Oyamad Yachlua, V'lei Tafa Chamamina Ikar. If the Torah already tells you that you can eat the carbon chatas anywhere in the Azara, right? So certainly you could eat in the sanctuary. So why do I need a pasuk to specifically tell me that in case the Beis Hamikdash is being bombarded, you could go into the sanctuary and eat what? And eat kodesh and eat carbon chatas there. If you could eat it outside, certainly you could eat it inside. So the Gemara is going to say simple, that when it comes to eating, I would say, no, it's not nice for a person to eat in front of his master. So it would not be nice to eat in the sanctuary. So without the pasuk, I would say you could only eat outside the sanctuary, but not come into the sanctuary and eat. Regarding shechting, that wouldn't be such a problem. If I could shecht outside, I could certainly shecht inside. But eating, I wouldn't say that. That's what the Gemara says. Hachi hashta. Over there is this. Hasam, over there, avoid the adam, by coming to slaughtering, avoid the adam, if you're doing a service for your master by slaughtering an animal, meaning then we say then we say that the outside should not be more stricter than the inside of the sanctuary. And if you can shecht outside the sanctuary, you could shecht inside the sanctuary. Achila, but when it comes to eating, it's not respectful to eat while your master is looking. So I would think that you could only eat outside the sanctuary, not inside the sanctuary. I wouldn't say that. That's why I need the pasuk tells me that if in Kifu Goyim as Kol Azara, if they're bombing the whole base of English, you could go into the sanctuary and eat their kachim. New Mishnah, chatas oif. Now this is the bird. Now there's two birds that sometimes we see as a carbon, a chatas oif and an oilas oif. The difference is that the chatas oif, let me see, the chatas oif was the chatas oif was done on the side of the mizbeach, right? On the southwest corner of the mizbeach, where they did the malika, they poured the blood, and then they squeezed the bird against the wall of the mizbeach. We've seen that. So, chatas oif, the chatas of the bird. After they, I don't know, they stick a nail into the back of the head. I'll have pictures for that tomorrow. They had the blood coming out. Now, normally, when you shecht an animal, you catch the blood in a vessel. By a bird, you just hold on to the bird and you just, give it a splash on the wall of the mizbeach, and then you squeeze it against the wall of mizbeach. Nasa and then Nasa al Karen Dormis Maravis. They would make this happen, the sprinkling happen on the southwest corner of the mizbeach, which we've seen what that is. But just from an aerial point of view, it's right there where the finger is, southwest. So this is west, right? So this is south, and this is north, of course, and that's east. Okay, so southwest corner of the mizbeach. Now, the Mishnah is going to tell you that the malika could be done anywhere in the base of Mikdash. The sprinkling, obviously, is the droimus maravis. That was the place we did the droimus maravis, was the sprinkling. Says the Mishnah, that corner, there were three things you did on the bottom of the mizbeach, on the southwest bottom of the mizbeach, and three things you did on the top of the mizbeach. Milmata, you did like this: chatas oif, the bird, the sprinkling of the bird, v'hagoshes, and as we saw in the picture, the hagosha was also by the mincha on the southwest corner. Ushiyare dam, and there was a hole there where actually you can see that they actually the leftover blood. There was a drain here where you can spill the leftover blood of a chatas. Let's say you had a chatas pnimi, whatever, you could dump the rest of the blood down there. That was three uses of the bottom of that mizbeach. Umilmal, on top of the mizbeach, nisach hayayim v'hamayim. On top of that side, they did nisach hamayim v'hayayim. So let's see, the nisach hamayim was on top, if I remember here. On the top of the southwest corner, right here, southwest, they did water, which was more towards the west, I believe. That was done only Sukkah's time during the carbon tamid, and every day they poured wine down this drain over here on the southwest corner. So that was there. And v'oilas ha'oif k'shi rabba b'mizrach. In the oilas ha'oif, they did it when it was too much in the mizrach. You see, an oilas ha'oif actually has to be brought on the southeast corner. But let's say there were so many kahanim lining up to do it, then b'di'evet they did it on the southwest corner. They moved over. So when there was a traffic jam, so then some kahanim went to the southwest corner to do the oilas ha'oif. Again, it has to be brought on top of the mizbeach, above that red line called the chut hasikra. Now, says the Mishnah, if you're doing a service on the mizbeach, let's say you're pouring, you're doing the sprinkling on all four corners of the mizbeach, oilin derech yamin, says the Mishnah, umakifim v'yardim derech shma'al. So what you did was, you went up, as you see in the picture over here, you go up on the right side, and you go all the way around and coming down this way. You have to turn right. If you went for these three items, if you rent for these three tha'ilim, then you went up and down right when you came up. So if you had to go up for the service of, let's say, nisach hamayim, nisach yayim, or for the oilas ha'oif, then you went up on the left side. You didn't go circle all the way around with the bird, with the wine, or with the water. You went straight here, and then you walk down that way. Says the Gemara, how do I know a chatas oif has to be done in the southwest corner? Am Rabbi Yeshua, Amakra, Yeshua says there's a pasuk. Pasuk says by a chatas bird, layasim oleh shemem, v'layitin oleh levoina ki chatas he. You can't put oil on it. You can't put frankincense on it because it's a chatas. So it's a chatas he. Now, that means that's by the mincha, it's called a chatas. Chatas kruya, mincha kruya chatas. And we're going to skip. Ma mincha, so this like a mincha is bekerem aravis roimis. We already saw the mincha has to be brought. Hagasha was done by southwest. Af chatas bekerem aravis roimis. So also the carbon chatas, the sprinkling of a bird chatas was in the southwest. Says the Gemara Mincha Gufa Benolan. How do I know? And this is the bottom line over here. How do I know by a mincha you do this? You bring it close to the southwest corner of the mizbeach, and therefore this is the same spot where I'll bring a bird chatas to do the sprinkling of the blood. How do you? Because a bird is like a mincha, and how do you know by a mincha? So the pasuk says by a mincha you have to bring it close. Lifnei Hashem el pnei mizbeach. And those words are two opposite things. Lifnei Hashem implies put it on the west part of the Mizbeach, right? On the west of the Mizbeach. Lifnei Hashem means put it on the front of the Mizbeach. So how do you resolve that? The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Lifnei Hashem, it tells you, put it on the Mizbeach that's facing the oil moed, Yochel B'marv. Then maybe I would think you do it in the west, right? Because you do it in the west, right? Which was be over here. Talmud Loima. So the pasuk says, al pnei mezbeach, do it on the front of mizbeach. Al pnei mizbeach, if it says do it on the front of the mizbeach, yochel b'darm, then I should do it in the south. Talmud Loima lifnei Hashem, but the Torah says it should be facing the opening of the heichal. Okay, said, how's that possible? Magisha bekerem the maravas droimis kineget chuda shakeren vidaye. You bring it, like I said, you bring it to the closest southwest corner, right? So that's the southwest corner, and that would be enough. Let me see if we have a good picture. You bring it to that southwest corner. So the corner by the sharpness over here, right over there. That's a better one. You bring it by the southwest corner. So there you accomplish both. It's Lifnei Hashem, it's in front of the west, front of the opening, and it's also in front of the Mizbeach. So that's why you do the southwest corner. And finally, Reb Lazar says he's going to have it a little bit different. He has a different, I would think, Yochel, he says like this, and the way to see it is he's going to say like this, the southwest corner is the best one. Why? And it doesn't have to be in the corner. Actually, the whole south side is good enough because Reb Lazar is going to hold that the entire Mizbeach was shifted north. And therefore, the Torah can't mean that you put it on the wall of the Mizbeach, on the west wall of the Mizbeach, because then it's not in front of the Mizbeach. So, but then the Torah tells you put it on the front of the Mizbeach. So yes, because by putting it on the front of the Mizbeach, on the south side of the Mizbeach, you're actually facing the opening of the Heichel, if the whole Mizbeach is shifted north. So that's why you could accomplish it by just doing it on any part of the south of the Mizbeach. And that's the Reb Lazar's opinion. Reb Lazar says, I don't know. If I read the Chumash, I don't know to put it on the west side wall or the south wall. Omarta, I will say, Kol Mokum Shatamoich Shnei Mekrois. You have two psukim. Echad Mekayim Atzim Mekayim Mechavera. One keeps both psukim. The echad, and to do it another way, Mekayim Atzim Mevata Chavera will keep one way but nullify the other way. So Manichin Zesh Mekayim Atzim Mevata Chavera. V'soifsin as Mekayim Atzim Mekayim Chavera. I try to latch on to do it where I can keep both psukim. I can accomplish south, I can accomplish west, I can accomplish that it's in front of the Mizbeach, I can accomplish that it's lifnei, in front of the door. So the Gemara asks, and the Gemara explains, when the Torah tells you put the mincha in front of the sanctuary, B'marav, the Torah is telling you do it in the west. Heichen ki yamtel pnei hamizbeach. So how do you get the front of the Mizbeach? When you can do it in front of the Mizbeach, kiyamta, you did it in the south, lifnei Hashem, heichen kiyamta. But how did you accomplish that it's in front of the Eibishter if you're doing it on the south? On this, Rav Ashi answered, Rav Ashi, Kesova Haitana, this Tana hold, Kula Mizbeach B'tzofin Koy. The entire Mizbeach was in the south. If the entire Mizbeach was in the south, as you see in the picture, in the north, that means the entire Mizbeach was in the north. So if I do it anywhere on this wall, right, I accomplished both things. Number one, I accomplished it's Lifnei Hashem, it's in front of the opening of the sanctuary, and it's also accomplishing that it's in front of the Mizbeach. So I accomplished two things with that pasuk. So that's the machlek is actually whether you bring the to the corner or you can bring it anywhere to the south regarding the mincha. Once you know the mincha is brought in the southwest, so then the chatas oif is also brought in the southwest. Okay, we will stop right over here.
Yeah, thank you so much.